Hi and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Aham Center for Therapy. My name is Ishwari Marathe. I'm a trained RECBT and ACT therapist. And if you're back on the channel, you know that we have been doing our pregnancy series where I talk about mental health, pregnancy and everything and anything that falls under these two brackets. I hope that the topics that I have been covering so far are the ones that are resonating with you, are prompting you to reflect and introspect, and are giving you some things to improve your journey with pregnancy so far. So today the topic that I have selected is once again something that comes from my own experiences as being a pregnant woman, and that is how rarely or how seldom we have a chance to actually go through each of our thoughts that may be stressful, that may be contributing to anxiety, and then we actually overcoming those thoughts or finding out ways to mitigate those thoughts. Because every time I went on Google or even ChatGPT for that matter, what are some thoughts which a pregnant woman can experience, I have found very generic advices about, yes, that sure, like the more positively you think, the better your experience will be, and that generally what you're thinking is going to affect your baby, so pay extra care to good thoughts, thinking good thoughts. So I could find definitely these generic advices, but nowhere did I find exact thoughts that a pregnant woman experiences and how to deal and navigate with them. Which is why that's exactly what we are going to be doing today. I have picked up the top 5 thoughts which can contribute to stress or anxiety in a pregnant woman, and we are going to together discuss how you can make your way through them. So stay tuned to check out which thoughts you resonate with, and if there are more, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Before going ahead, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and let's go. Alright, so the very first thought that I want to start off with is simply the thought which most women have shared with me even in sessions, is that what if we are not able to handle everything post delivery or post having the child in our lives. Now this could mean career, this could mean their health, this could mean their ambitions, this could also mean just how they have lived life till that point, and then how do they live it from that point onwards. So now the thing to understand is, whenever a thought starts with what if, it means that there is some worst case scenario that you are afraid of, which you are trying to run away. So let's open that door of what if wide open here, and let's go there and actually see what if that happens, right? So what if I am not able to handle my career and taking care of my baby 100% every single day? What if I'm not perfect in managing all these different roles and responsibilities that I will have to now play? Take a minute, ask yourself what answer comes up. What if you're not able to do that? So when I did this with my own self, the thought that immediately popped up was, well, I should. Like I see so many other women having it difficult than me, leading busier lives than me, and they can do it, so why can't I? So I should be able to do it. And that is the crux of the matter, because whenever you use words like should and must in your thoughts, it is almost like you are sitting in a high chair as a judge. Imagine a court of law, and you are that Supreme Court judge sitting on the table with one gavel in your hand going, order, order. This is exactly how it should be. There can be no exceptions. There can be no flexibility. It is this way or the highway. Well, the jokes apart, as you can imagine, this kind of thought process is definitely going to increase the stress and the anxiety of something that has not even happened yet, and is definitely going to reduce the joy and satisfaction from it when you actually are going through it. So the next step then is to figure out, where does this should and must or this kind of a rule actually come from? So ask yourself, why do I think I hold on to this belief so strongly, or why do I believe into it? When I did that with myself, I realized that my shoulds all boiled down to me somewhere saying to myself that, hey, if I have so many things going on great in my life, if I have great parents, great husband, great in-laws, then all the more the responsibility to then handle all these roles falls on my shoulders. Because what else then do I have to worry about apart from taking care of the child and then managing the roles, doing the bare minimum that I can? Now, as a thought, I don't think this was a bad intention or a bad place for the should to come from, but the part where it had become a rule that I was kind of, that gaveling on myself, that is what we want to change. So how do you mitigate this? The first and foremost step is to ask yourself, is it really humanly feasible or possible to really be perfect and to give 100% and to handle all the areas of your life with equal precision every single day? And the next thing that I want to recommend is to really shift how we perceive 100% also. So it's possible that every day I give my 100%, but that 100% looks different every single day. Sometimes it will mean just me keeping myself and this new tiny human being alive. Other times it may mean that in addition to doing that, I have also got a little bit of work done. I've also taken care of my body in some ways. And in yet other ways, for yet other people, this 100% definition could be completely different. The point is, you have the right and also the benefit of the doubt to create a version of that 100% that makes sense to you, that does not put more pressure on you rather than motivate you, and finally that lets you enjoy being a mother, being a parent, rather than just taking the stress about it all right from this get. I'm very curious to know what you think about this, so please let me know in the comments whether you have any shoulds or musts, and if yes, do these pointers make sense? Now the next thought is something which I think pregnancy brings as a part and parcel, because we are going through so many prenatal tests, we are given so many instructions about how best we can ensure that our baby's health is good, correct? But then a thought that comes up very frequently with that is, what if something is wrong with my baby? So what if some tests shows that something is bad, something is wrong, and that I need to do something about it? So each time I was going through the different prenatal testing, it could be the non-invasive prenatal tests that flags out for trisomies, or it could be even a simple follow-up with the gynec. I had this thought somewhere at the back of my mind that what if today is the day that the gynecologist tells me that, hey Ishwari, everything is not so good, and here is what it means for the health of your baby and you. So that's the general umbrella of thought that I want to address here. How do I take care, or how do I manage a thought which continuously tells me that something is wrong with my baby and I need to know for sure that he or she is okay in there, right? So the very first thing that I want to say is the exact strategy that we approached for the last thought is not going to work here. I know you must be a bit puzzled. How is it that some strategies work better with one thought and not with the other? And that's just human mind and psyche for you. But if you go into the rabbit hole of this what if scenario, correct? So this thought might show up for you in terms of, what if the doctor says this, or what if the fact that I'm not feeling as much movement that I have done in the last couple of days, what if that means that something is wrong with the baby? So different versions of the what if thoughts. If you allow yourself to fall down that rabbit hole, it's going to get more and more darker, because it is coming from a space of uncertainty. We really don't know, with all the tests and all the advanced medical aids that we have today, we still do not know what's going on inside the body at that given time. So even as I'm recording this video, I am in my 8th month of pregnancy, and I can only estimate what it is like in the womb, but I can't know for sure all times. So I think the more you fall down that rabbit hole, the more uncertain the things will start seeming, and that will only compound your anxiety even further. So at such times, instead of opening that door of what if, I would rather suggest, and this is what I've done even with my own case, to shift the narrative and shift the perspective more towards what's in my locus of control and what is out of my locus of control. Because anytime you're faced with uncertainty of any kind, not just in pregnancy but otherwise in life also, it helps to zero down on what you can control, and that gives a sense of hope, it gets a sense of empowerment, and it helps to mitigate anxiety, because anxiety does not like a sense of control. Those two are actually opposites of each other. So take a minute to pause this video right now and list down all the things that are in your control that can ensure higher probability of your child being safe, of everything with your baby going smoothly throughout the course of your pregnancy, no matter which trimester or which stage you may be at. So take a minute, pause and list it down, and then I'll see you on the other side. Alright, brilliant. Now move on to a little bit of the part which gets you uncomfortable, correct? What are the parts which are outside of your control? Which are things that no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you take care of, you won't be able to predict, control or change beyond a certain limit. Once again, pause the video and write it down. So here is some things that I had kind of come up with when I did this activity with my own self. So the things that I had in control were getting some kind of exercise every day, not eating anything that I know is absolutely going to hurt the baby, like, things like alcohol or things like extreme or too much caffeine. So those were the first thing, exercise and diet. The second one was also making sure that I am regular with my follow-ups, regular with my appointments. At times it did get very hectic to manage work and also different appointments that I had to keep. But at every single point I was reminding that, hey, that's in my locus of control and I want to do it. And perhaps the most important thing that fell in the locus of control was not overthinking about the things which are not. Because we all know that there is a very direct connection between how stressed or anxious you feel, how much cortisol and stress hormones are secreted in your body, and how many of them actually reach your baby. Because we all have this amazing thing called placenta, which helps to protect your baby from otherwise minimum to okayish level of cortisol and other hormones. But when it goes beyond a certain point, the actual stress hormones also pass through the placenta. So that was, in a very roundabout way, something that I could control, not freaking out and not overthinking about the things out of my control. So those were the three things that fell in the control. The things that fell out of it was, what kind of genetics is my baby going to inherit? Because I also didn't know what exactly my genetic history and lineage has been. So is there anything that I could unknowingly pass on to my child? That was out of my control. What kind of complications, or will there be any complications in the coming up trimesters? Now I'm in my third trimester already, but I did this in the first one. So I didn't know what the second and the third trimester would bring. Even today, I don't know what the rest of the pregnancy is going to bring. So really all of that is something, again, which is not in my locus of control. Whether I have a natural delivery or a cesarean section, to some extent it's in my control in terms of me doing exercises and stuff like that. But ultimately, no one can say about how the labor and delivery is actually going to go. So those were things outside of the control. Now, once you have this comparison in front of you, what you're then expected to do is, anytime this thought pops up in your mind, I want you to redirect your mind to this in my control and out of my control list, so that you can very quickly ground yourself and challenge or counter that thought that, hey, these what if scenarios can just go on forever. I would much rather think about what I want to do right now or in the rest of the day, which is going to help me take care of my baby. So it changes the narrative from anxious and being out of control to rather, what can I do to ensure the baby's good health as I can at this point in time. So it gets you back to the present. Now let's move on to the next one. Before moving on to disclosing the next thought, I want to actually take a minute to share something very personal that I experienced very recently in pregnancy. So right at the start of the third trimester, I started experiencing what they call pelvic girdle pain, which is essentially when your pubic bone starts paining because your belly is getting bigger and so many changes are happening in your body. At the same time, I had a very bad case of hemorrhoids, which made it very difficult to actually move around in the day or even exercise like I would usually. And then the cherry on the cake was getting a diagnosis of gestational diabetes, which is something that runs in my family. So no matter what I did or how clean I ate, there was a genetic risk that I had, and then it actually manifested. Now, while going through all these three things together, there were of course moments where my mind kept thinking about, why is all of this happening, and that it is too uncomfortable to go through all of this. It's too painful or it's too inconvenient. That I have to experience these three things now on top of actually growing another person inside my own body. So this is why the next thought that I want to address is this very thought, that the discomfort / the inconveniences / the pain of later trimesters or all the experiences that come along with being pregnant is just too much to handle, and it's too stressful and too painful. Now, the way that this thought comes up in your mind could be very different. It could be in different words, in also different languages. But I hope that you're able to catch on to the general meaning that I'm trying to put forth over here. So how do you mitigate this thought? The first one is to recognize that experiences can be very difficult and very painful and still tolerable. Because our mind again has this trick for us that whatever that's painful, it automatically categorizes that, oh, this is unbearable. I can't do it, I can't bear it, and I won't be able to tolerate it, right? So again, different permutations of the same thing. And then what happens is, the more that you keep saying to yourself in your mind throughout the day that this is unbearable, I can't do this, this is too hard, this is too much to do, that much more you are also convincing yourself that I really don't have the capacity to do this. And the more you convince this, the more your stress and anxiety goes on increasing, as you can very clearly imagine. So the very first thing that I would want you to do is kind of make that separation for yourself. That yes, there are many experiences of being pregnant which definitely hinder your daily functioning, or they change things and disrupt things a lot more than you had expected. But they still don't mean that it's automatically unbearable or something that I can't do. I can still tolerate it. And then how you can make this even stronger for yourself is anchor yourself to the why behind it all. Because ultimately that is what helps us connect with the larger reason for why we are doing this, correct? We are not doing this for fun, we are not doing this for a short-term thing in our life, but rather we are doing it for a momentous and a beautiful change in all of our lives who are pregnant right now. So the why for me, the more I reflected, was just, again going back to one of our previous thoughts, the why for me was I wanted to do everything in my control and capacity to keep my baby healthy and to give the best chance possible of health to my baby. That one why was enough for me to go on all the kinds of diets that needed to be done to be on gestational diabetes and not have my sugar increase beyond a certain point. That was enough to go and work out even when my body was not really feeling up to it. So find out what is your why behind tolerating this pain, behind tolerating the different inconveniences that pregnancy is going to bring up. And then start seeing or noticing if your thought patterns change and how that impacts the way you feel. Alright, the next one is something that I am also going to be making a separate video on, simply because I think it has been one of the main things I have also thought about and also had some anxiety about, which is labor. So the thought process around it could start ranging from what if this happens, that happens during my labor, to other extreme thoughts in the sense of I am not going to be able to handle this, it's going to be too scary and too painful. So like I said, we will be talking about it in another video also, but for the time being, what I want to leave you with is that the entire experience of labor is never going to be a cake in the walk. No matter how much you prepare for it, no matter how much you read about it and research about it, it's not going to be a very easy experience for anyone in the process. But what will help though is to zero down on what is it exactly that you're afraid of. I know it may sound a little confusing right now, but think about it that if there are 5 things about a certain event that feel scary, that feel uncertain, most of us will have 1 or 2 which will come up at the top if I try to rate it. That okay, this is maybe the last thing that I'm worried about. Then this comes as a 4th option, then the 3rd, and then these are the 2 things that I am extremely scared of. To give an example, maybe the different 5 parts of labor could be right from the experience of contractions to the health of the baby as you are delivering him or her. Then the 3rd one could be how it will actually feel to push, and would you have vaginal tearing or not. Then the next one could be how will my post recovery be, and then the last one could be I want to have a natural delivery, but what if I am forced to have a C-section. So these could be, say, 5 things that when I think about labor, I feel afraid about. Now my job is to sit down and ask myself, even in these 5, are there some of them which feel more manageable, which feel like with some help, with talking about it to someone, I might be able to handle better? And then are there some things which I absolutely can't even think about it right now? So I'm so scared about it that I won't even let myself actually imagine how it might go and what the situation and what I will be exactly like in that situation. When you have those 1 and 2, like that maybe first, topmost, and then the close follow-up, that will help you to be much better prepared to navigate the thoughts regarding labor. And that is exactly what we will be doing in the video that is specifically regarding to labor. But for the time being, this is what I want to leave you with. The last one that I want to talk about in today's video is the thought of fear of general change that, pregnancy and parenthood will be bringing up. So this could involve the change of identity as a person, the change of the relationships between you and your spouse, you and your friends, you and your parents. So basically that one new relationship that you are now nurturing definitely will have ripple effects on other relationships in your life. So this entire chunk of thought is what I want to address next, correct? So as far as the individual identity and the personhood of a mother goes, I think just first step is to just acknowledge that for some time there will be a little bit of confusion that you will experience. There will be you trying to regain your balance once more. And the more you accept that, the better off you will be to rediscover who you are now with a child. Because it's not going to be all bad. It's untrue that the change of identity is necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be an amazing transformation for yourself, where you find or you realize that you have cracked open in ways that you did not know before. But for that to happen, you will first need to be incredibly patient with yourself. And that patience will only come from the acceptance that for some days, some months, or even a year or more than that, I will be still figuring out who this new Ishwari is, who this new, put in your own name over here, is going to be. Right? So that's for the identity shift. And as far as the matter of relationships, I would say that if the relationships are truly stable enough, again, like all things in life, they will have a little bit of a bump in the road, but then eventually stabilize once more. So it's a game of patience. And how I would want you to try and mitigate this thought for yourself is by actually also bringing in mind the positives of this opportunity. Rather than looking at it as something that I have to do, I have to now have an identity change, or this is something which I am pressured into, I'm cornered into finding out a newer version of myself. If the perspective is shifted to the level of, wow, through this experience I get to find myself again, I get to rediscover myself again, I think that is a much better point that will bring up acceptance of it at some point. And then the second thing that you can do is you can ask yourself, does it actually help to also insist that I should be the same version of myself that I was before this experience? Is that ever possible? Even when we think about other milestones in life, when you move from school to college, or when you move somewhere else for education, when you fall in a relationship, when you get married, all the other big milestones that we go through, would you say that you have stayed the same through all of them? Or have you allowed yourself to change and mold and grow through it? So what's true for those experiences is equally and more true for the experience of pregnancy and parenthood. So ladies who are pregnant and gentlemen who are supporting them through this process, here were my top 5 thoughts which I felt were very relevant to anyone who is experiencing pregnancy. Let me know if any of them resonated with you. If there are any other thoughts that you want me to talk about, leave them in the comment section. And with that, I will be taking your leave for today's video. Stay healthy, stay fit, and stay on top of these thoughts. I will be seeing you for the next one in our pregnancy series. Till then, take care. Bye.